You see that man right there? That is legendary writer Donald Duck Matthews. He is a loner. You're probably wondering how he got himself in this situation. Want to know more? Then watch this video. Before we begin, if you want to see music bios or more good videos like this, hit the subscribe button. And without further ado, on to our feature presentation. Duck is the main songwriter of his group called the Five Heartbeats. They are set to perform at a local talent show, but two of their members aren't there. First is Eddie King, or Kane, Jr., and the other is Bobby. Instead of showing up, they opt to gamble before the show. This leads the other members to sweat bullets, except for Duck's brother JT, who opts to tap dance with a girl. They're not really tap dancing, but if you know, you know. Back at the gambling site, Eddie and Bobby gets into some trouble, and this leads Bobby into getting shot in his good leg. He'll then injure his other leg when a car hits him, and we never see him again. Eddie shows up at the last minute to save the performance, and despite their efforts, they lose the talent show to Flash and Ebony Sparks. Even though they lose, they catch the eyes of Jimmy Potter, and he offers to manage them. He wants to help the guys win, and if they lose the next talent show, he'll give them $100 guaranteed. His wife Eleanor, played by the legendary Diahann Carroll, is hesitant about his latest ventures as his last group left him out to dry. Eleanor is a charm school teacher, and one of her students' name is Tanya. I mention this because Duck is in love, and also pay attention how JT is also lusting over her. That's called foreshadowing. Moving on, the Heartbeats lose the talent show, but the club owner, played by another legend in Granddad, offers them a job to perform at his club, and Jimmy officially becomes their manager. We get some background with Eddie and Choir Boy's parents, as they don't approve of their music careers. For Eddie, his dad berates him and shoots him down to his level. For Choir Boy, he is raised by religious parents who disapprove of secular music, which was a sin back in those times. Jimmy then introduced the group to Sarge, played by one of the Nicholas brothers, and he gives Dresser a lesson in choreography. With Sarge's help, he whips the boy in shape in time for the next talent show. A rival group named Bird and the Midnight Falcon is intimidated by the Heartbeats and offers his girls to bring her friends to cheer them on and boo the Heartbeats. One of the members is cousin with the announcer and coerces them to using a house musician. When the Heartbeat goes on stage, the fix is in. That is until Duck intervenes and the group goes straight a cappella. Eddie then makes Bird Girl wet, and he goes in for the kiss and she faints. After the show, they get the attention of Big Red Records and offer the boys a record deal. But Eleanor is aware of Big Red's corruption, and the group declines for now. Back at home, Duck is struggling to write a song, but gets help from his little sister, and this is probably the most wholesome scene in the movie.
No matter how hard it gets, we haven't finished yet.
They meet a record executive as he likes the song, but not the group, as he believed that the Horsemen is easier to market. Jimmy and the Heartbeats go back to Big Red and sign with Big Red Records. With their song I've Got Nothing But Love, the boys hit the road. While on the road, they struggle with bad hotels and racism. While in Georgia, they get a rough copy of the album, but features white people on the album cover as Big Red wants them to cross over. But crossover is nothing more than a double cross.
Crossover ain't nothing but a double cross. I mean, once you lose our audience, we're never gonna get them back. Next thing you know, they try to change our sound, have us sounding like white boys. And white boys sound like niggas, they the ones making all the money.
Dresser then finds out that his girlfriend is pregnant and is struggling financially and contemplates leaving the group. On their next stop, JT and Duck get into an onstage fight over hotel living habits. The next show, the Heartbeats make it part of the act. The group starts to have success with selling out shows, appearing in magazines, and winning awards. But Eddie starts to experiment with drugs and alcohol. His girlfriend gets fed up with his addiction and breaks up with them. Eddie then starts to show up to shows late and sometimes not show up at all. One time, Eddie shows up late and he becomes face to face with Flash. And here's a fun fact. Flash character John Terrell didn't like the fact Eddie was in his face. A martial artist, Terrell was told never let anyone get in his personal space. So when Robert Townsend was egging Eddie to get as close as Flash's face, he almost pieced up Eddie. It made for a good scene.
You want my spot, Flash? Huh? Well, you ain't gonna get it, cause you ain't got it.
Back to the movie, the members confront Eddie about his recent behavior. Eddie blames Jimmy for his downfall, and just because he has one drink, he's an alcoholic.
Just cause I have one, two, maybe two drinks sometime, I'm an alcoholic now?
At a party hosted by Big Red, we learn that Choir Boy is a ladies' man and now has more game than everyone.
What's your name?
Sandra Tillman. Hi.
Anthony Stone. They call me Rock.
Bird then confronts Big Red about his royalties, and Big Red goes full Suge Knight on him. He dangles Bird from the balcony until he's crying like a Big Red then orders Bird to recite his hours.
Do you have any other problems with your royalties? My office hours are from. My office hours are from.
This. Later in the future, Jimmy visits Big Red, and Big Red informs him that he plans on buying out Jimmy as the Heartbeats manager through the order of Eddie. Jimmy then threatens Big Red as he'll air out all his dirty laundry. But the most sinister thing he's done to this point was when Big Red threatens Eleanor.
What kind of plans did Eleanor make today? Eleanor. I really like Eleanor.
That night, Jimmy is prepared to go out, but as he leaves, Eleanor gets a threatening phone call from Big Red or one of his henchmen. When Jimmy waits for his car, someone throws a beer bottle in his direction but misses him. But when a truck speeds his way, Eleanor arrives downstairs, but they're too little, too late. It then cuts to Jimmy's funeral, and Big Red shows up like he gave a damn about Jimmy, but Eleanor knows that he's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Get out! No.
After the funeral, the Heartbeats found out Eddie's role in the fallout. Dresser then takes out all of his unhealed grief out on Eddie. Filled with guilt, Eddie decides to leave the Heartbeats. Bird then shows up to inform the Heartbeats that he'll testify against Big Red. And thanks to Bird's testimony, Big Red is put away for Jimmy's death. They'll sign a new deal with A&B Records and replace Eddie with Flash, which shows that the Heartbeats got desperate for a replacement. I was going to wait to the end of the video to say this, but one of my biggest criticisms of this film has to do with the music. While the Heartbeats were getting their start, in the background you can hear mostly Delphonics songs, a group that reigned supreme in the early 70s, not in the mid 60s. Also with this, in 1972, where Duck is playing the keytar, an instrument that wasn't popularized until the late 70s when funk was taking over. I might be overthinking this, but that's just a nitpick I noticed. After their first performance, JT still shows his jealousy over Flash. His envy towards Flash started in the beginning of the film when Flash was a member of the Ebony Sparks. Now this next scene always makes me laugh. JT takes over Flash's lead and wins over the married woman. Also, I would love to hear the comeback song in full.
Baby, come back to me.
After the show, the members, minus Dresser, have an encounter with Eddie. And this scene saddens me because it shows how hard Eddie has fallen.
Nights like this, I wish raindrops would fall.
Choir Boy gives him his card, that will be important later on. And in the next scene, it is shown that Duck is now engaged with Tanya Sawyers. But Duck begins to sense infidelity. Duck first suspects Choir Boy having an affair with Tanya as he's a known ladies' man, but that'll be false. Duck then executes a plan to find out who Tanya is seeing. He follows her to her destination, and while doing this, we are informed that Eddie was shot in a liquor store robbery and is in critical condition. At the hotel, he finds out that his own brother JT was creeping with Tanya. At another award ceremony, Flash announced that he's leaving the Heartbeats to go solo. Duck then goes to the podium and airs out the dirty laundry about JT and Tanya, and also leaves, unknowingly ending the Heartbeats.
If I can get a deal like Flash, because today's my last day as a Heartbeat too.
Duck, don't do this, Duck.
The film then shifts to present day, and Duck is still in his era of resentment. He then receives a letter from Choir Boy telling him that he invested his heartbeats earning into his dad's church and invites him to their first sermon. It is discovered that Eddie and Baby Doll, which is now his wife, sing in Choir Boy's choir. Eddie has become clean and sober, and I ain't gonna lie, this scene is a real tearjerker. After the service, Eddie talks to Duck and asks for 2 favors. Number 1, he asks Duck to write for his new group. Number 2, and more importantly, reconcile with his brother JT. JT is now a married man and has 2 kids, one of them being named Duck. Duck meets JT at a park and the two make peace.
Whoever has kids first.
I missed you, Duck.
The final scene shows the boys having a cookout. The kids eventually turns on Video Soul, and it is shown that Flash has joined the 5 Horsemen, doing whatever he can to cling on to fame. JT turns off the TV, and it shows that he's still resentful against Flash. The Heartbeats then shows their families their old moves, and in this scene, Eleanor and Dresser forgives Eddie, and they all live happily ever after. The end. This film is pretty good. If I'm having a bad day, I often go to this film. I want to commend Robert Townsend on his work in this film as he directed it, but I do want to make another fun fact. Denzel Washington and the late Whitney Houston was supposed to be casted but turned down the roles due to budget. One of the biggest lessons I've learned from this film is in reconciliation. Even though someone has done you wrong, that doesn't mean you should hold a grudge against said person. Forgive, but never forget. So if you haven't seen this film, I definitely recommend it. It'll have you laughing, it'll have you crying, it'll even have you pissed off. And on that note, that concludes the 5 Heartbeats review. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.